Welcome back to our YouTube channel. Our next story is called To Pee or Not to Pee. When I was a teenager, I went to a wedding in downtown Kansas City. My parents decided to let me room with a male cousin who happens to be my age. And needless to say, we were pretty excited as 15-year-olds to get some independence. This story took place the first night after the reception. My other cousin who was getting married said goodnight to the wedding guests, at which point we all decided to go back to our rooms. It was pretty late, and almost all of the guests staying for the wedding were drunk, including our parents. That definitely set the tone for the night. My cousin and I sat down on our beds and started watching Unfriended on TV. We were watching for a while when eventually we got bored. So I looked over, about ready to ask what he wanted to do, when I noticed he had a smirk on his face. Immediately, as a 15-year-old boy, I couldn't help but smile, and he said he'd give me $10 right now to pee out of the window. The thought of this cracked us up, and to be honest, I didn't really care about the money. All I could think was, what if I actually did it? That singular thought reverberating through my hollow skull proved to be more than enough motivation, and so I opened a window to start peeing. My cousin was in disbelief. His laughter stopped for a second. I could tell he wasn't really expecting me to do it. We burst out in glee simultaneously. After a laughter-filled 30 seconds or so, I'm done, and my cousin, enthralled by what just happened, decided he wanted to do it as well. With that, he opened the other window and started a second stream of piss. We were both hysterical and must have been making a fairly large racket because after we were both done, we heard an aggressively loud shout come from below us. Hey! Now, it's important to keep in mind we were on the 7th story of the hotel, so this is fairly high up from the ground. The place where we peed overlooked an unpopulated back alleyway, not the main city streets. When we heard a voice, though, we stopped dead in our tracks. It startled us pretty bad, and we stumbled away from the windows. We noticed a hotel security guard who must have observed the 2 large puddles of piss accumulating on the ground. The next thing we saw was a flashlight pointed up at our windows. We convinced ourselves a hotel security was going to come check the rooms on our floor since they could easily tell where we were. We did some quick thinking and looked out of the peephole on our door before I scurried outside for no longer than 0.2 seconds to put up the Do Not Disturb sign. The thought of our parents finding out about this unlocked a new level of fear in our adolescent brains. We ended up sleeping with both windows and curtains wide open and subsequently froze our asses off, as neither of us dared expose ourselves to the routine flashlight that scanned by our room for the next hour or so. We knew they were trying to wait us out. Going down to breakfast and passing through the lobby the next morning was especially terrifying. We weren't really sure if anyone saw our faces while we were peeing. I'm very happy to say security was clueless and our parents never found out. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. Our next story is called Idiotic Mom Thinks That I'm Her Son. This was a few years back, but it is still embedded in my memory. I don't know whether or not to put this here or in Entitled Parents, but this seems more fitting. So about 5 or 6 years ago, me and my mom were at home, and she wanted to make my dad's favorite dish for his birthday in a couple of days. We went to the store right next to our house. We were walking around, and my mom asked me to go get the ground meat and pasta sauce. When I was walking there, I hear a voice yell, "Jimmy, get over here now." Jimmy is not actually the kid's name. I just brushed it off and kept walking. Then I hear, "I'm gonna count to 3. I thought to myself, "Kid, you better run." 3, 2, 1. "Okay, mister, your choice." I know that he just fucked up. Then, out of nowhere, I feel a tight force on my neck, and I couldn't breathe for a second. I later found out that she grabbed the hood from my hoodie, which, if you've never felt that, you're lucky. She kept saying things like, "You're grounded for a month," and "You're going straight to your room when we get home." She didn't even care to look at my face, so she didn't even notice that I wasn't her son. Then her son turns the corner and says, "Mom, I finally found you. I got lost and I didn't know where you were." Then she let go of me, and the look on her face at first was horrified, but then it turned priceless. Then she said, "How dare you pretend to be my son?" She then let go and walked off like nothing happened. I got the ground meat and pasta sauce, then returned to my mom. We paid, and when we got in the car, I told my mom, and me and her died of laughter. And next, the coming up story is called Shopping Story. So this is a story about two idiots, my friend and a shop worker.
Wow.
Yesterday, our gym hall was closed for a handball tournament, so we had 45 minutes of free time. My smart classmate wanted to go to a Chinese shop. I'm not racist, they call them that where I live. They're owned by the Chinese and they sell toys and cheap stuff. Basically, my country's version of a dollar store. So we go in there and the dumbass buys a fake gun and little capsules that you put in the gun. The gun is loud. So we were on our way out and this Chinese woman runs up to me and grabs my pocket. I get freaked out a bit and annoyed. I can't blame her. People love to shoplift in those places. So she finds my phone and my empty hand in my pocket. Then she pretends to point at my sweatpants and says, "This old," 3 times, and grabs my other pocket and feels something. I open it, bring out my keys to my apartment to show her. She makes a pouty face and then turns around and leaves. After this, we met with our other 2 friends, and then my friend pulls out the fake gun and starts shooting it at random people. We were lucky no one got too mad. And then he brought the gun into the hall of our high school and starts shooting it. Teachers got scared there might be a school shooting. It's the first to come to mind when you hear gunshots at school. Somehow, no one got detention or anything. Oh my lucky. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. Our next story is called "A Group of Guys Thought My Honey Buns Were Worth Mugging Me For." So this happened about 2 years ago when I was living at an apartment complex. It was dark and I was hungry, so I went to the Winco nearby using the now closed off entryways next to the side of said Winco and bought 2 honey buns. On my way back, a group of guys walked up to me and asked if I had any money to spare. Being polite, I tried to explain that I didn't, only to have water thrown in my face, being pushed to the ground, and got my ass kicked. Now, here's the thing. Along with the honey buns, I had the keys to my apartment. I had my wallet, which had my ID, a bunch of coins, which barely even made $1, and a debit card. I even had my phone on me. They didn't think to check my pockets, decided my honey buns were important, and ran off. When I got up and walked to the front of the Winco, I walked up to these 2 dudes nearby and asked them if they could drive me to my apartment because I didn't feel particularly safe at the moment. They were cool enough to not only do that, but after explaining what happened, they also gave me their box of honey buns, so I got more than what I went to in the first place. Once I got inside, it didn't really take long for me to find the situation stupid and hilarious. Even as my body hurt, I just found the entire thing funny. I wasn't even going to call the police because it's so dumb. So that's the end of it. At least I thought it was. Literally the very next day, I saw this same group of guys bragging to a bunch of girls about the fact that they beat me up, though they didn't seem all for it, as I had run into those girls before and was usually very polite with them, or never went out of my way to bother them. When they saw, I could hear them laughing, jeering, and calling me names. At that moment, I knew I had 4 options. I could choose the mature, more sensible option and walk away and call the police. I could be a fucking meathead and try to fight them, even though I'm not a fighter and they outnumbered me. I could attempt the badass route and try to make them feel little by telling them how I was better than them because despite my own problems at home, I don't mug people to make me feel better about myself.
Wow. Mm-mm.